Well, my word, have you ever seen a garage this big? This is the 4-car garage. Look at these trusses, mind you. Look at this. And that's why they had to put that big old beam over there for the transition, because that is holding up the weight of these other trusses, because these trusses are going that direction, because look how much longer this is than this side. And then these trusses, they decided to go this direction, and that is a really very, very long span for a truss. But hey, they got them designed properly and they made it work. Look at that. So see all the weight of these trusses over here are held on to that beam. Can you see why that beam is so big? You see that? That beam, oh, I don't know, it's probably 16 inches tall. It's 2 by 6 after 2 by 6. There might be, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, maybe 12, maybe 14 2 by 6s glued together. That's what you call a glue lam beam. I believe that's why they call it that. Okay? And they've run strapping on there and all that kind of stuff. I've already kind of shown the innards, the guts of this. I'm going to go outside now. We're going to look at the roof system here, just to see all the turns and stuff. It's gonna look really nice here. Okay, and that's what happens when you have a roof like this. When you have all these bump outs, you know, like that, it gives your roof character. Because if they had the garage doors. If they had the garage doors nice and straight there, you wouldn't have all these different things. Well, because they did it the way they are, they were able to tie in the roofs at different directions and stuff, and it gives your, like I say, it gives your house a little bit more character. You see what I'm saying? And that's gonna look really nice. Okay, and now let's take a look at this. These 2 by 6s here that go in between the rafter tails. Okay, those are called freeze blocks, and the ones with holes, those are called bird stops, because the holes will keep they'll keep the birds out, so to speak, because there's a piece of wire on the backside. You have to cut a little piece of wire, staple it on the backside. That way no birds can fly in through there. That's going to give you an area there for the rafters and the attic space underneath there, an area to breathe. Okay, and the way that they've done that, I thought that was kind of interesting. They got other blocks up at that other wall section, and they had to drill holes in those to allow the roof to breathe. You can get actual vents that are that size, that whole thing, instead of a block, is an actual vent. But they decided they didn't want to do that. Okay, and so that's how they did that. Let's and see, they've got all their other rafters. Oh no, they don't have all the rafters up there. See, they got them all kind of set out here, and I don't know if the boom truck's going to be out here tomorrow or not. They have a big forklift type thing, and they might say, oh yeah, these are smaller, we'll be able to lift those with their machine back there, and they probably won't have to get the big crane out here. You see, here's some small trusses. See, they had all kinds ones designed. Look at all these small ones. Here's some small ones, here's some other ones. And here, see, they've got different things numbered. At least they did that. So then they'll look at the corresponding area on their plans to see exactly where those go. If they have a question about it or whatever. Okay. And there's something interesting I noticed too. These trusses, the bottom of the truss is a 2 by 4, and the top edge is 2 by 6s. Okay. Most of these trusses, the top edge is 2 by 6. Why do you suppose they did that? Let's take a look. Yeah, I can see the top edge is 2 by 6s. Well, chances are this entire roof is going to be concrete style tiles, clay tiles, some sort of tiles. Okay, and that's going to put a lot more stress and weight up on your roof. And so they might have decided, hey, let's go with the 2 by 6 And plus some of these spans, maybe they had to use the 2x6 at the top to allow for the entire spans, and then they thought, okay, everything else they can use 2x6s. Let's just take another. It's getting kind of dark, but I'm wanting to finish this. I'm kind of curious now myself. In this area here, yeah, see, there's 2x4s on the bottom, and if you look closely at the top, that's 2x6 on the top portion of the rafters. Okay, and they've already this entire area here, they've already installed the plywood. They've already installed the plywood on this section of roof. Okay, and I thought that kind of odd too. See this big old long thing here? They take their big huge forklift and they lift that up off the ground. Let's see where see, they put their tongue in there, their little fork on both sides. They lift that up. Somebody's out here, they probably strap themselves in, and then they nail away. They install the barge rafters, or the fascia boards. These are fascia boards. This wide piece is called a fascia board. Okay, the barge rafters, they're getting ready to install the barge rafters. That's the exposed last piece of rafter. That's called a barge rafter. They've got them all set, and see, they have to cut those in. They cut those in by hand. I believe they do. That's how we used to do it. We'd have to cut them in and then take a 2x4 that was 4 feet long. It goes back to the next. Truss, and then it comes out flat like that, and that's what holds the top edge of your barge rafter material. Okay, and you know, you're getting a little taste of quite a few different things here. Okay, and that's why when they built these walls, they had them get them all straight, because they wanted everything straight, because you don't start messing with these trusses. The truss flat bit stops here, the angled part comes all the way down, and then when they line them up, everything is supposed to line up. Now, sometimes they might take a straight edge at the very end after they get everything nailed. Hey, let's put a straight edge on here. See how straight these actually are. They might find, okay, this one has to be cut off 16th. This one has to be cut off 3/8. This one has to be cut off an 1/8 or something like that, so that when they, and then somebody will have to get up there and trim off a few of them, because you want your fascia board. You see this face? That's the fascia board. You want that thing nice and straight, don't you? And so they've got to do some checking on there, don't they? Okay, and remember this, they had this pop out. I'm not quite sure why they did that in the garage, but they had their reasons, and they decided to get it in. They still, for some reason, they still have to put some plywood around here, and I think it was because that electrical panel somehow is kind of pushed out. Oh, that's right. See this pipe right here coming up from the main one. See how it's almost flush with the wall there? Well, right here you can see it's sticking out away from the wall by at least an inch and a quarter, and they may be waiting for the electrician. They may have to modify this pipe, and I think what they'll do, you know what I think they'll do? They'll heat this pipe up with a torch, and then they'll actually bend it into the wall. Okay, that's what they're going to do there. I'm sure that's what they'll do, and then that will push that right in. They won't have to do it any other way. You're not really supposed to cut this pipe. You say, oh yeah, just cut this pipe right here and bend it over. No, then that's going to expose your main lines coming up through there, and the inspector will never buy that. Okay, and so let's just take a look over at this area. I thought that kind of odd that they installed their fascia boards here before the barge rafters. Usually what we used to do is install the barge rafters first. Then you can kind of trim off the barge rafter to match everything else, or if you have to trim off anything and line them up, then your last fascia board will tie in properly, or you might have to cut it at an angle, depending how they're going to finish this off. Sometimes you could cut a 45-degree angle on the barge rafter and on the fascia board, let's say, if it lines up that way, and cut the tip of the barge rafter off. But they have their ways. They know what they're doing. They know what they're doing, and So see, they've got everything ready here for the barge rafter. And somebody they probably had 2 guys working on this. Well, they had 2 or 3 guys working on something else, and then they had 4 guys. When they're 4 guys, I've seen these guys. They've worked with 4 in their group, and they know what they're doing, and they work together really super good. Okay, they probably had 4 guys working over here to get the trusses up before the guys drop back, and then they started their plywood and all that kind of stuff. Okay, and so away it goes. They are making some progress now, and see, they're making up good time. And see, when you come out for an outside corner, this barge rafter, they decided to wrap it around here. I thought that's kind of interesting. So any corner like that, they'll cut at a 45-degree angle. This other one on the inside, they don't necessarily have to do that. They usually just butt those 2 up. And so they really know what they're doing. It's very, very difficult if you've never worked on a roof before, and you get up to a point you're going to be like, how do I tie these trusses into the next trusses, because they have to extend that out by hand at this point, because see those two trusses at the end, they're going to have to tie it into the rest of the roof. Those trusses are already there. Well, then from there you have to put a ridge beam. You've got to tie it in. Before you do that, you got to install your plywood on that roof, and then usually they'll do something over there. That's easier than putting some blocks in there so that you've got something for your ridge to hit. You got to figure out exactly where your ridge is going to hit. Then you've got a valley on both sides, and then the last few little truss pieces, I don't know. Remember, we saw some small little pieces. They might actually use those, boom, 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 or they'll cut them in by hand. After they measure that, and they'll measure it, and they'll actually cut those last ones. May not actually be trusses. You don't have to have trusses. You can have regular 2x6s or 2x8s, however you're building that, as long as it's going to hold the weight. You see what I mean? And they'll install the plywood, and then they run a piece up there, and then you've got to cut it back. Oh, it's really quite interesting watching guys frame. So even if you think you can frame your own walls, let's say you know, and you've got some friends that you're going to build your walls and all that kind of stuff, and maybe you've got a little bit of knowledge on the trusses, and you can get the trusses up, and maybe your house is just an L-shaped house or something, and you get everything up there as far as you go, and maybe you've got somebody else you know who can come in and tie in all the trusses into the valleys, into the hips, into the different areas. You see what I'm saying? So that's where we're at so far. I'm not really going to take any time today to talk about anything else. You see where that freeze block is for the bird stop. They've drilled 3 holes there, and they've got a little piece of wire there, and they stapled it on the back side. You got to make sure you get good staples there. You don't want those to ever push in by a rat, by a mouse, by a squirrel, by a bird, whatever, because then they're up in your attic. And see, they don't, and because this is a attic with trusses and stuff, you don't necessarily have to do it. You don't have to do those bird stops with the holes on every single one of your freeze blocks, your rafter blocks there. You see what I'm saying? And so they've determined, okay, hey, how many of these we're going to do? Hey, have 2 blocks in between each one. So maybe they're 6 feet apart, you know? And so you've got, so then they know, okay, this section over here, they decided, let's put one here, let's put one there. That's all they're going to do on this section. And away they go. You see what I mean? So different things obviously going on. And see, the truss stopped right there, and then just the rafter tail went from there to there because the wall bumped out. So at that point, they had to put some more blocks, and they've got holes in those to come up. And then because they had something else at this point, they had to come up again, because lots of walls, you only have one wall to deal with. If you only have one wall, obviously you only got 1 row of fire blocks. Well, they got 2 rows of fire blocks on this section. Okay, so man, they've got, and because these the span of these trusses are so far. Look how much room, my word, look how much room they have wasted from your ceiling height all the way up. Well, they decided, hey, there's nothing we can do about that. And could you do something later and build a room up there? No, you can't do that because you cannot alter these trusses. Once you design the trusses, once you install the trusses, you cannot start cutting any of these trusses. And for another thing, can you put storage up there? It's not designed for storage. You cannot. You're not supposed to put plywood up there. I'll just put plywood in this section. I'll load that all up. It'll be fine. I've got all kinds of. Look at all the floor space I have. The ceiling headroom. I'm gonna put plywood all over the place, and I'm gonna stack all kinds of stuff in here. Well, it's not designed for that because this bottom section from here over is only a 2x4. That's only gonna hold up so much weight. It's only designed to hold your trusses, and your trusses are only designed to hold your roof, and that's only designed to hold your tiles. Depending what kind of tiles, they've decided on how they're going to build these trusses. And I noticed that these trusses have 2x6s at the top instead of 2x4s. Okay, and that's probably why they did that, to make the roof stronger up there, to allow more weight, that the truss can hold more weight. And maybe it also has something to do with, because the truss is so wide, it's spanning so far, they felt in order to get the design to rate properly, they had to run 2x6s up there at the top. Okay, so that's my guess on why they had to do that. Okay, am I a general contractor now? No, I used to be a general contractor years ago, but I only built a few houses, and then I moved over to doing commercial tenant improvements, which is using metal studs, T-bar ceilings, all that kind of stuff. But I was around framing like this for, I don't know, first 3 or 4 years. And so I know what's going on, but don't hold me 100% for each and every little thing that I'm trying to tell you. I'm doing the best I can and explaining to you as I go what it looks like, what they've done, this, that, and the other thing, okay? Well, that's all I got for this time, but I'll be back with more videos. And I've got lots more to tell you on the next episode, so stick around.